For the third time, shall we? I'm just going to play the game, I think, at this point. Genuinely just, I think I might just, you know. Ready to lose my shit. Ready to lose my shit. You know what it could be. Could be the advanced broadcast. Let me run camera hub back up again. Oh, come on. Please. Please, please, please. There we go. We got our camera back. Oh god, it looks... Oh, is that because of the... Hang on. Very misty. Ooh. Ooh. Oh, is it because I've smudged it? I think I've smudged it. Hold on. Yeah, put a great big smudge on it. That's why it's all blurry. Okay. Once more into the breach. Once more into the... Oh, there we go. There we go. Okay, now we're cooking. Okay. We are just gonna leave it at that. And yeah, oh god, look at the frame rate. It's like it's so smooth compared to the one before. Right. For the third time and hopefully the last time. Hi everybody. Sorry for the technical issues. I don't know why it's doing it now. New camera, I guess, just wants to just fuck everything up. You're so smooth. Thank you, Cinema. Which move? So fancy. How you doing, Cinema? I know you haven't played this, so you've been hiding from spoilers. So, I hope you're well. Yeah, even like hand movements. Like I'm doing that, and it's like so smooth. Because the other camera, it was a lot more jittery. I'm hoping this is an improvement. Actually, well, yeah, well, I'll have it a little bit wider than usual, just so you can see my surroundings a bit better. You're well and hiding. Nice. Sorry, Jax. I know you. If you're still there, I know you said something about Hell House, and in FF7 remake with your no magic run. If you can repost it again, please. I'd be grateful. All right. Can we hear the game? Yes, I can hear the game. But I hope everybody else can. I bloody hope so. Right. Ads are done. Ads are finished. Unless you have turbo or something, or subbed. Right. Welcome, everybody. We're back. We're back. We're back. And we are back in God of War Ragnarok with Atreus in Asgard, going to find Odin.
If he had nothing to do with it, then why isn't he here?
Just because someone isn't here to defend themselves doesn't mean they're guilty. What kind of messed up logic?
Hey, sorry for interrupting.
You're not interrupting anything.
Forseti's investigating, so the truth will come out soon enough.
I hope it does.
Good.
You'd better go.
I probably should, shouldn't I? I'm gonna walk back to her room, and she's like, I don't want to talk. No, not today. I'll leave that there for now. Let's just go find Odin.
Okay. Panic does nothing. Harness it.
Heimdall's dead. Happen to know something about that? Anything?
Well, I mean, everyone hated him.
Sure. But have you seen anything? Something noteworthy?
I mean, you know, he did sock through it pretty hard while we were out. Maybe someone found out? Got even? I don't know.
Are you suggesting my son had something to do with this?
I don't know. Honest.
Well, I had to ask. Never believed you had anything to do with this. I'm glad you're back.
I think he does. I think he does, really.
So, I figured out what went wrong. I mistranslated a word here.
Did you now?
I thought it said beyond the cry of cold breath, but it actually reads the cry of first breath.
Well, that's somewhere else entirely. I know where that is. Young man, you've done it again. Go. Take the mask, take the sword, take the bird. Find Thor. We're going to Niflheim.
Ooh.
Missed you too.
Off to Niflheim we go.
Hey, Ingrid, you wouldn't happen to know where Thor is? Yeah, I figured.
cappuccino?
Hi, Sif. Do you know where I can find Thor? Allfather is sending us on another mission.
Why would I tell you where to find anyone I cared about?
Look, it's fine if you don't like me or trust me or whatever. But I want you to know that you're hurting her.
Excuse me?
Thrud's gonna be a Valkyrie one way or another. You know that. If you don't stand with her, you're gonna lose her.
You may be working with Allfather and enjoying his little bubble of protection. But stay out of my family's business. Enjoy your freedom while you still have it.
Right, let's go find Thor then.
Maybe I should stop by my room. Might be a while before I can fix up my equipment again.
Good shout. Yeah, haven't we done all the skills? I mean, he's unlocked everything skill-wise, so that's fine. And everything is level 3, so he's good to go, honestly. Yeah, sorry about the technical difficulties, everyone. Hopefully now, fingers crossed, it shall be sorted. Oh, that's through.
Thrud? Sorry, Allfather said I'm supposed to head to Niflheim with your dad. I haven't seen him around, and I was wondering if you had any idea where he could be.
He wasn't with grandfather?
No.
I think I know where he might be. Follow me.
I, also wanted to talk to you about Heimdall.
Don't. Not here.
You're right. Later.
So we go outside.
Back in Helheim, I told you I'd help your mom understand how much becoming a Valkyrie meant to you. I wanted to, let you know that I meant it.
You didn't. And you're still alive?
I did think she was gonna choke me with her hair.
I'm honestly surprised she didn't. Thanks, Loki.
She's nice enough, Thrud.
Weapons aren't allowed inside. We'll have to check them.
Why?
Just do it. Come on. This way.
Oh.
Come on. They're not gonna let you in otherwise. Look around. He'll be here.
He's probably drinking. He's
Go this way.
Thrud, I'm...
It's fine.
I'm surprised.
Hey, Thor. Seems like it might be a bad time, so... If you need a moment, I totally understand. No rush, but...
Right where I thought you'd be.
What are you doing here? You shouldn't be here. You shouldn't have brought her here.
What are you doing?
Relaxing.
Did I say no rush? I meant we should get going, right? We don't want to keep the Allfather...
Quiet!
He's right. You should get going. Dad? Don't do this.
It's already done. Let it be known, the God of Thunder is good for two things. Killing giants and pissing me! Any man who disagrees will greet Mjolnir with its face.
This isn't you.
Thor. Hugin is waiting outside. Please, let's just...
I said, quiet, boy.
My name is... What? No, Oh, come on! No, I swear that really wasn't... That's enough!
Oh shit.
Oh, how I've missed this! And he's still got it.
Jesus Christ, this is all happening.
Get away from me! This place sucks!
Well, this went well, didn't it? We were trying to get
I'm getting our weapons!
I'm trying to get Thor to come with us, but he's like, yeah. How do we get up? Like, say, how do he? Is Atreus' bow just magically came to him? I know the sword can, but like, I didn't think the bow would. This is someone else's bow.
You could be helping more, don't you think?
Thinking too much.
Seriously?
Come here.
Damn it! The door's right there!
Come on, Thrud, let's go. I do like Thrud. I think she's one of the better characters in this game. No, we're wielding two double-bladed, two swords, two daggers sort of thing. Wait. How are you still conscious? Like, Atreus was beating the living shit out of him.
Now shoot!
Will Odin be mad I'm killing Einherjar?
They're already dead. They can't really die again.
Oh. Kratos. That's like Kratos. I was like, imagine if he snuck in.
What if you started again? Right now, just put down the... Grab his arms. Let's get him out of here.
It's a good fight.
I'm I'm sorry you had to see him like this.
No, it's fine. Really.
I do feel bad for Thrud, because,
Hey, I'm strong, but you gotta help me out here.
like, Thief is, like, not doing...
Come on,
He's
it's
gonna-
not that far.
just, like, sitting there. And be like, oh, so I need to be better. And he's like, no. So Thor just thinks he's a fucking drunken bum. Happens to be the god of lightning.
Thor?
Get up.
Rudy.
You are going to Niflheim with Loki. Allfather's orders. You have to get up.
I know you're disappointed.
Disappointed? No. That was a glorious fight. You can't even say you're sorry this time, can you? Because what's one more broken promise?
Yeah.
Grandfather treated you like crap. You were struggling. I get it. But you can't just...
Just pissing his life away, ain't he? Hey, GB.
Mom and I are here for you. Even when you're here.
Welsh Bandicoot Banter Rock, exactly.
We love you. You know that.
How you doing, GB? Hope you're well, buddy. Hope things are good.
I just thought this was behind us.
I fucked up.
Oh. You fucked up, huh?
You fucked up.
You fucked up. Well, there's me on, yeah.
Can I get you a water or something?
You again?
Yay, so we got a drunken Thor with a hangover now, probably, to deal with.
Let's make this quick.
You in a hurry to get back to Asgard?
Just get us to that masterpiece.
Actually find the last final mask, right?
Was it worth it?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Fine. But I hope you know what seeing you like that did to her.
I was drunk, not blind.
I mean, he's kind of right there. He's drunk, not blind.
Hey, why can't we just fly over these guys straight to the mat?
You think I want to carry you all that way?
You're strong.
I'm not your pack horse.
I mean, fair.
Don't bother getting
Nice.
Rude looks up to you. I hope you know that.
Don't need a lecture about parenting from you. Just find the thing.
Yeah, that's, I mean, always kind of right there, though. Like, Atreus shouldn't be trying to parent, like, I know he's like a giant and whatnot, so they're not going to listen to him anyway, but...
Looks like we gotta head through that wall. You
Something
wanna...
I need to do first.
Oh. Oh, he's throwing up. Nice. There you go. Let it all out, bud.
Now we can go.
He's probably gonna do that like 3 times, isn't he? And then he's like, oh, I'm okay now.
Okay, you really keep trying to... I don't even know what you're trying to do anymore, but you have no idea the kind of shit I've been through.
Right. Half giant, son of a powerful god with impossibly high expectations. How could I ever know what that's like?
Exactly. How could you ever know? I mean, he just literally described himself. But at the same time, it's like, come on, dude. Still has that knack of just being an absolute whiny little shit. He's definitely better than what he was in 2018. I'll give him that. Then he's grown up, so he should be a little bit better than that.
You know, I'm not trying to do anything. I'm just pointing out we're not that different.
I got no interest in bonding over shared blood.
Yeah, I know. I know you probably don't. So, to be honest. You probably don't. I can't believe how smooth it is, the camera. I don't know how smooth the new camera is.
Okay.
Crazy.
I just want to add one more thing. If you can't be yourself, you also might not feel like you can follow your own path. That doesn't sound familiar to you at all?
Hey, go on, Ingrid. Let's go. Guessing we come back here with with Kratos at some. What? The fuck?
So we've got some similar life experience. What does it matter? Seems stupid to gripe about the things we can't change.
Who says we can't?
Who say? Only the fates say that the future is predetermined and destined to be the way it is. It's not certain. But then, I guess, like they're doing is, you know, even though they're trying to not follow the prophecy and you know, purposely do what they think is morally right, they feel is right, then, but still following, you know, the fates, future as they foretold. So. Nightmares inside him. That makes sense.
We're far from Uvalde's workshop, right?
Far enough.
Pale Meadows.
Damn it! Ancient!
Again with the griping.
Calling out a problem isn't griping. It's healthy.
Bet you're glad I'm helping so much this time around. You're welcome. I will say the sword's doing work over there. You're lucky she's helping, too.
I mean, I'm aware of that. I'm aware of that. Whoa. Oh, fucking thought just killed it. Let's go.
I love Hellwalkers. You just blast them apart.
Oof.
Poof. Problem solved. Don't have to think, don't have to feel.
Through there, just ahead.
This'll be fun.
I don't think that's where we're supposed to go.
So, I said it'd be fun. Here was.
Thor's finding his own path a little bit. More hacksilver? Nice. Oh. A chest. Nice. Oh, Asgard ingot and dwarven steel.
You see them again. Siphon through it, I mean.
If all father's pleased, it doesn't matter. Look, kid. I don't need you to solve my family problems for me. Just find the mask. Let's get out of here.
Up this way. Looks like there's a path.
Oh, did I literally point? Oh, he.
One
To do it twice.
pathway coming up. You
Fuck.
enjoying the freedom? Out here without Fabio looking over your shoulder.
Well, yeah, I guess. It's different from what I'm used to. In a good way.
Hmm.
Looks like we gotta get up that cliff. I think we...
No thinking.
Whoa!
It's better when I know it's gonna happen.
Maybe Thor's like softening up to him. Who knows? Maybe, maybe, maybe. Just maybe. What was a berserker gravestone?
We close.
Maybe. I can check.
Around here. Take care of this one, Loki. Loki, Loki. Hey, like what I did, buddy. Do I enjoy making courthouse puns? Guilty.
Thor, I hope everything goes okay when you.
The difference between an African elephant and an Indian elephant? About
Well,
5,000 miles.
Hoping's better than thinking. It's a start.
Oh, how you keeping? I think I saw you playing was it Horizon? Or Resident Evil? Which one? Oh, yes, Revelations 2. How's that going? How's that going for you? Maybe in that building, isn't it? Going to be in that building. Well, real fun game? Hell yeah. Is it a first playthrough or is it not? Is it like a replay? Forget.
It's here.
Gotcha.
Phew. That was close.
Replay. I thought so.
Thor.
Wasn't about to lose that.
Loki, you did it. We are on the verge of great things. All of our work together.
You're welcome.
I'm
Steve.
sorry. You are here. Why?
His father murdered Heimdall. Forseti has proof. Take him.
No. Leave him alone. I command it.
You said no more Aesir blood would be spilled. You said family comes first. You don't think that this is retribution for him being here? He's put your granddaughter in danger. He's made your son miserable.
Loki didn't kill Heimdall. His father did. Your daughter is old enough to make her own mistakes. And your husband started drinking again, all on his own. Dismissed! You two, a word.
Can't you see what's happening? He's not protecting us. Magni, Modi, our boys. We used to tell them stories by the fire. Do you remember? We would carve those wooden horses. We would play and laugh until the sun sank and they fell asleep in our laps. They were thrown at the Allfather's problems like brittle knives to a mountain face. And for what? What if Thrud's next?
You kill my sons. Sleep in their beds. Turn my father against me. My daughter.
I have no idea what's happening.
You know, I finally thought of something I can teach you.
Hey, stand down!
Sentry better be right.
Where you?
Sindri. Ugh. You sure know how to plan an exit.
Oh, shit.
Atreus.
Oh, no, wait, sorry. I did, like, scream and shout and stuff. All good. Yeah, sorry. I I did sort of half see what you said about Hell
Glad
House.
you're safe, lad.
Got out just in time.
Didn't you get a
Tried running my
notification? Oh,
bridges in
really?
Asgard, though.
Oh, weird. Normally it comes up saying
Where
like,
were
or
you at?
manage.
Sindri told us where you would arrive should you find trouble.
Oh, thought you might have been exploring without me.
No, lad. Your dad was just concerned.
Sorry about
Now
that, Jax.
you
I,
mention it,
I put it down to the
brother, please. It's all so crowded and tense back.
put it down to Twitch
Don't
being
you miss
Twitch.
the three of us out finding our own adventures?
Putting off the inevitable.
Exactly.
It's not the worst idea. I do want to show everyone the mask.
Do with extra challenge? Oh, go on. Do tell. Do tell. Do tell. Alright, so we got the mask. Turn to Sindri's when ready. Oh, so I don't have to go to Sindri's? Hmm. Helheim. Yeah, the only thing really that's left is yeah, it's Alfheim, isn't it? The oh, not Alfheim, Vanaheim. It's the Droga hole, isn't it? The one that's up here in Vanaheim. I did it without having anything linked to elemental material. Oh, let's go. Nice. How the hell did you manage that then? Because like the second phase is all like linked to elements and stuff, like weaknesses to elements and stuff. Crazy. Yeah, fucking play. So if I go,
Come. The rest can wait.
Thank you, brother.
Visiting the crater again?
We still have unfinished business there. See, their warriors still haunt the crater. We could put them to rest.
Enough. I remember.
it's the stag, of course. That's why I mentioned the battle attritions. Oh, so you're just plugging away. Damn. How long did that take you, by the way?
That's right. We got more food at home. Come on.
I have to say, quite a nice change of
A
pace
while.
helping these stags get home. For a moment, I was worried we'd have to kill them.
Yes.
You had a plan to kill it if it had attacked, didn't you?
Yes.
Yes. So that's that then. Yes, is it worth me going to the jungle? I think I might go to the jungle entrance. Just because I didn't really properly explore there, so. But the new camera's working lovely. Nice and smooth. Moving. Yeah. The main reason I did it that way because I would only be able to exploit one weakness. That would be to the god house mode. I think off the top of my head what it would be.
Behind you! Watch the ogre!
Yes, I'm trying. Me, I'm trying. Well, I guess the main one is like the physical weakness, isn't it? Physical attacks.
Another one of those mysterious crystals. Dead end. Where to now?
Big footprint. So that's interesting how that happened because Odin's like, well, you know, he had the mask, he didn't give it, you know, he's about to give it to me, and then he's gonna be even more pissed now with Sif and Thor because he quote unquote, you know, tried to kill Atreus. Like, probably no, not quote unquote. He tried to kill Atreus and then hit Ingrid and looking back to, you know, Sindri and Atreus, his dad and stuff. Punch. Punch, 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 punch. Good stuff. It's time to squat. Oh, you're doing the gym challenges. Nice. In the gym with Jules.
Look, I'll be damned. That was a joke, guys.
Are you certain?
It was funny.
Let's go investigate, shall we?
Chris is like, are you certain?
We could likely reach the other side of this canyon if there was still water running through it.
Send the dam. This is probably what I was meant to do to get to the last. I think it's Droga Hall.
I wonder, if we open the dam, do you think they bring the river back?
Possibly.
I wonder what's in there.
Yeah, that's just a little loop. Okay, that's fine. That's a little side area. Oh.
Look, another one of those day-night altars. Probably need to use it, I'm guessing.
Yeah, but we need to get to it somehow. Ah.
Alka!
Okay.
A lift. I wonder if this will take us to the dam.
Possibly. I'm actually further than I've been in my practice run of this gate challenge. Ooh, let's go.
It makes me mad.
Harness that. But do not let it control you. More say that.
Because how far did you... I can't remember how far you got to the last time. Wasn't it like, didn't you say like chapter 5? Or chapter 5? Or Macro Reactor 5? Oh, fuck hell.
Incoming!
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Macro Reactor 5. Nice. The Sector 5 slumber after you save the kids. Ah.
One less Sather camp to worry
Gotcha.
about.
Ah, another crystal.
Another
Let's hold on to
crystal.
it until we can figure out what to do with it.
Crystalline shard. Oh shit.
Another Trekkie.
It'll eat its way through everything here.
I've been constantly switching around the magic that's linked with the elemental materia. Yeah, well, I'm not surprised, to be honest.
The milk is healing everything!
Behind you!
Bye, bitch. Ah, bitch. Ah. That's gonna be someone's story, isn't it?
It's gonna blow!
Spirit.
Think using the crank wheel will help?
What? The crater.
What is it?
It is the tale of combat. Of a fair-haired woman doing battle with the most powerful of all gods.
What woman?
Lab.
Elaborate.
But, oh, the specifics elude me.
Wonder if they're talking about
me.
hey.
And I was excited.
I wonder.
About to bury the hatchet with an old friend. But something terrible happened.
I'm afraid that terrible thing was your demise, my friend.
I know there was more. 3 ponds. I could see all 3. Please. Help
I'm getting so many side quests, man. It's ridiculous.
Help me remember.
Casualty of War,
Got a
the
good feeling
Stein.
about this guy. I think he knows something about Mother.
Or not.
Have some faith, brother. Answers could be closer than you think.
Stuck.
Looks like something's gummed up the works, brother.
Oh, could be the fucking.
Alka!
Could be the vines, maybe? Possibly. Fuck. Oh wait, hang on.
Alka!
Hmm.
Alka!
Oh, fucking reach it. How am I gonna, how the...
Ah, there's still a blockage further up there.
Oh, you know what it could be, actually? You know what? Bet.
Alka!
I bet there is a way because of the way it is at the moment.
I am ready to drink in the next life.
Unless there's a thing I gotta do in the... Unless I gotta switch the...
Doesn't seem like we can cross. Not yet, anyhow.
Need to... Need to clear the water, don't I? How do I... So I can get it to...
Alka!
Yeah, there we go. Nice.
Surely that's unjammed the wheel.
Oh. I gotta wait for that to unfreeze. Yep.
Wonder if we can get anywhere new now.
Nice. And look, new paths have been made.
I think we can go across now.
A new path emerges. Tale of souls and swords eternally retold. Wee. More loot. So now we can get that Droga hole now. Let's go.
That's for the Drekkie feed. Let's get ready. Won't be much time for fussing once the fighting starts.
Ready yourselves.
I got you.
Another one.
Shield up!
Need to get my timing down with. Oh, come on. New. New. Right. I fought two Drekkie before, so it's just need to.
Another one.
There's gonna be like 3 or 4 of these fuckers. Freeze, my boy. Oh. Health, I just oh, because of the stun, innit? Yeah, damn, the axe is just. Axe is just nasty. Never get the timing down for that first one. Always get fucking caught. There we go, there's one. There we go. Ooh, fuck.
Your shield, brother. Use it, yeah?
The fuck out of here, bitch. Nice. Let's go. Okay, we got ads. That was good timing,
Dam
literally.
unblocked, the voracious pretty dead. I'd say this jungle is well on its way back to its original glory.
It's what lies below. Okay, right. So ads are about to start in a minute, so that's good timing actually. Or we can, because we can go back now and go to, well, we can probably make it daytime. And access the other areas. Probably. Let's do that. There will be 3 minutes of ads coming up in the next 30 seconds or so. Just as a heads up.
Look, over here. The water's flowing. You got the water flowing.
Yay.
So we might access more of the crater.
Yeah, but with the water flowing, the plants and animals will come back. I think we just healed this place.
It was not my intention.
For goodness sake, brother, just take the win.
The win. Return of the river. Complete.
With the water flowing and new paths open to us, I say we go for a stroll.
We will search, not stroll.
Oh, come off it. You've never enjoyed nature for its own sake? Not just for the treasure you might find?
I mean, treasure's nice too.
You're hopeless. Both of you. Looks like our good deed has already brought back some wildlife.
Oh.
Suppose I spoke too soon.
Trail of the Dead. Whoa.
The dragon's perched on that structure. Should we find a way up?
Yeah, we will. Just bear with. Hang tight. What's the tallest building in the world? The library. It's got the most stories. Drapnia spear. Oh yes. That's all skills now? Oh, apart from the Blades of Chaos. Hope I can get I hope I can get that last the Droga hole so we can go and get it. Today a girl said she recognized me from Vegetarian Club, but I'm sure I've never met her before. Nice. X traces got everything. Okay. I might just start like upgrading other ones. Because why not? Right? Everything level 2. I think, yeah, that's all I can do at this moment in time. Well, like I love how he holds the axe. And then ding, chaos. And then ding, the Rapnir spear. Ding. Oh, I got Rond of the Nine Realms, which is quite nice. And the Rond of... Oh, that Rond of Restoration is quite good. Cool. Ooh, Defense and Vitality. I wonder what, if I get it to level 6, how good that is. Anyways, that's done. So we can now continue on our merry way. Oh, yeah, look, the water's back. So we've got boat points now. Let's go.
Behind you! Incoming! It's gonna blow!
Okay, that's done. All right, so let's go. Yeah, let's go over here then in the boat. Wee. Oh, come on, Trace. Let's pick up something up. Boink. Stonewood. Ooh, nice. Oh, a Nornir shrine. Nornir shrine? Nornir. A Nornir chest.
You smell trouble, yeah?
Fuck, hold on. Hold on. Come on. Oh, Mr. Gateway. Get back here, little bitch. Fucking bitch.
Let's fight! Behind you, father! Still standing, yeah?
Bong. Bong. Please. Why is people play? Ow. Ow. You fucking bitch. Ah. Motherfucker, motherfucker. Motherfucker.
Yeah! Stay quiet! Behind you, brother!
Fuck out of here. And rip your jaw off. Thank you very much. Bitch. Alright. Howdy, Moister. Howdy, howdy, howdy. How are you? How are you doing this on this fine day? It's got like a Mystic Gateway here, though. Normally that means there's like Brock's nearby. How you doing, though? Hope you're well. Good to see you. That's a shortcut. That is the shortcut. Pretty good. Trying to set up Mario Kart Double Dash to play online on my GameCube. Ooh, nice. Let's go. I actually saw that at my retro shop that's near me the other day. Mario Kart Double Dash on the GameCube. I have a Wii, so I could technically play GameCube games. It's been alright. It's been alright. Work's been okay, you know, nothing too crazy. And here we are.
A careless one.
How's that?
We found its home.
Unless it's a trap. It's been good. Just did some errands, you know, and whatnot. And then, yeah, here we are. It's too dense. Oh, I've mastered damage. Yep. Guess there's nothing here, right? Anyway. Anywho. Maybe I gotta change it to daytime for him for the hunter to be there, maybe? Hold the phone. Ooga. Ooga. Just like that, it's daytime. Just like that. Hello? Anybody home? Maybe that didn't make a difference. Fair enough. I thought maybe it might have spawned somebody. Maybe not. Right, can we get around now? We get about? Say, don't do me like that, game. There's one there.
Wait.
This guy.
What did you want?
Are you
Are you?
father?
Yes.
Then you must understand. My son This toy.
It's the other honeybee in dance somewhere.
But now he's gone. That day, so much chaos and death. I was
Control.
looking for my son. Please, help reunite me with my son in Folkvanger.
We're gonna help him, right?
What is the last thing you saw, Spirit?
Statues. 2 of them. Dragons facing away from each other. Separated like my son.
Pardon me.
This toy. It will bring me back to him.
Boy.
His story is like many in this valley. Separated from someone they love by death.
We gotta get him back to his son.
Agreed.
You do? Oh, I assumed you'd say something like, reuniting the dead is pointless.
Not this time.
Oh, maybe there's a thing you gotta hit in that hunter's camp. Maybe. That would kind of make sense to have it there. Got their best dresses. Let's go. Nice. Dress to the nines, isn't it, they say? Yeah, I'm gonna guess it's in here. The other the other sigil we gotta get is in here. I haven't been looking properly. Maybe not. There's got to be a reason for this area then. Surely. I mean, it's not a real issue because it's not like I'm one away from getting health or rage upgrade, so it's not like it's the worst thing in the world, but it's kind of nice to know where it is. It's over here.
This toy. It must be made whole again.
I know. I'm aware. I am the aware of awares. Oh, yeah, we've got that ogre to deal with now, haven't we? Realised. Want to go that way just yet. Oh, so it's just here again. That was a fucking waste of time. Ah, so instead of... Okay, let's go down here then. You got online working on it? Let's go! Hell yeah. Are you using like Parsec or using something else? Oh, it's on actual. Oh, on the actual GameCube. Let's go. I didn't think it had a Ethernet port on it though. Can you get like a dongle for it to like enable online?
Just curious, brother. Why don't you like riddles?
They are frivolous.
They encourage lateral thinking. Listen, there are 3 doors before you. One contains a pit of spikes, one a dragon.
Buy a broadband adapter, but
one
that's like over
a pair of
£100
lions
something now.
hanging in
Shit.
weeks. Which door do you open?
The first. Pit of spikes is easily avoided.
If we go much further, we'll be right on top of the ogre. Better be sure we're ready.
Yeah, let's fuck him up. Fuck him up.
We fight!
We fight!
I got that!
I'm Maximus Decimus Kratos Meridius. Oh, there's 2 of these fuckers. Ow. And there's Nokens. Ah. Son of a bitch.
Left side, brother!
More fucking Nokens? Bruh. Well, alright. Yeah, no, that's just not nice. Oh. Attack the ogre. Attack the other ogre. There we go. Yeah, let's go, bitch. I just grabbed myself an Ethernet module and sold them to a little motherboard thing I plugged in. Oh, hell. I just grabbed myself an Ethernet module and sold them to a little motherboard thing that I plugged into the bottom of the GameCube. Wow. And that works. Damn. That's fucking amazing. Oh, shit.
That was ours, you opportunistic dog.
It went back to its perch. Let's go after it.
Fucking dragon? Oh, bitch. Or the ogre, at least. Looks nice, too. Oh, he did a 3D print of a case? Let's go. No, I like that. I like that. Oh, that is son.
You can be with your son now.
Thank you. I can't wait to see his face again.
Oh.
I'll give him this gift.
Ah, fuck.
And tell
Ah,
him about the brave people who helped me.
Now you can help us. What did you see that day?
I was at the mead hall. Thor was there. He had a strange drinking companion. Some sort of creature, the likes of which I'd never seen. It had this barrel of mead that seemed to never go empty.
What were they doing?
Getting blind drunk from the looks of it. They were passing drinks around.
Wasn't Sif, was it?
Everyone had a tipple too many. But Thor, he was by far the drunkest of any man there that day.
Well, look, the toys we made.
What do you make of this?
Thor has always loved a strong drink with questionable company. But I've never heard any word of his creature companion. This isn't a lot to go on him.
Also, the keepsake. Oh, so you generate a protective barrier that absorbs a single attack. When the barrier is destroyed, it emits a concussive shockwave that stuns. Oh, that's actually amazing if you can get that. You need 175 cooldown.
We know one thing. Thor was totally drunk when the valley was destroyed.
There is still much we do not know, and whether your mother was involved remains unclear.
Oh, it's a stag.
Unless my eyes deceive me, that seems to be the stag of summer.
Is it
Oh.
not, or is it just my sizzling personality? Nah, it's you, Stag. And we go already? halfway there by Septimus?
I do not like you.
I do not.
I do not like you.
Down, halfway there.
Darling. Is it like, did you get like a certain color for the 3D print, or was it just generic? Not generic, but like a standard sort of. Oh, shortcut, come on. Okay. Just black. Oh. That's probably quite nice though. You can probably get some cool looking design ones, to be honest. They're not white, really? Well, yep, they're dead. They dead.
So this is where those tracks led.
Oh, I was gonna grab it from there. My GameCube, though, I sprayed to be white and grey, made it look more modern. Oh, nice, nice. Send me a picture of it. Don't think I ever had a GameCube. I don't remember owning one, but maybe my brother might have had one from once upon a time. I love how I've done like, and I love how I've done like half an hour's worth of story, and then just the rest has just been side stuff. The Path of Destruction.
The creatures here aren't that big. Drake must have been constantly eating to survive out here.
Follow the footprints.
Some sort of cage.
So it would seem.
Yet another mystery crystal.
Lure the Drake. We're gonna lure it.
Sea of possibility.
Ah, look. Oh, so was I meant to go here first? Oh, Jewel of Yggdrasil. Let's go. Nice. And this is a shortcut out. Let's go. Are we gonna lure the Drake then? Anyway. Yeah, I appreciate the look, mage. Good to see you.
Brother, in my travels, I heard of a great battle in your homeland. At a place called the Gates of Fire.
The Hut Gates.
You were there?
No.
Is that regret in your voice?
I did regret not dying there for many years. But no longer.
Let's see as well. Yeah, I'm enjoying the stream. Just chilling, as one does. As one does. Okay, so we got All of the Dead, Path of Destruction. Perhaps the tracks lead to an empty Drake's Nest. Perhaps we can find some way to lure it back. Well, there's the Drake. So how am I gonna get? How am I gonna get over there then? There's gotta be an area I'm missing. Oh wait, no, yeah, there was. Yeah, hold on. Let me give you a shout out as well, mage.
Brother, about the oracles of your
Follow mage. We've raided him a few times. Really cool dude.
Did they have an agenda?
I do not doubt they held their own interests first. But in my experience, they could be easily fooled by their
Tear of the
own
World Tree.
policies.
Would that be a specific experience, brother?
Runic plus 2. Let's go.
I sought the Oracle for a means to break my bondage to Ares. But enough of that for now.
That looks like it hurt.
Behind you, brother!
Oh shit. Playing Superstar Saga. Reminded me of Superstar Saga. Nice. That's the one on Nintendo Switch Online, isn't it?
Making these things stronger.
Obviously put on the games at Game Boy Advance. Crystals.
Another one of those mysterious crystals. I'd get past those vines somehow.
Help them.
Whoosh.
The way is clear.
Is it though? Because I can't get to it from there. Unless... I mean some other way? Must be. Appreciate you lurking, mage. Everyone go follow Mage. He's cool. Cool dude. Going through some Kingdom Hearts, which we love. When you look up the picture of, when you look up the word stubbornness in the dictionary, you'll see a picture of Aerith.
Damn if I can't stop thinking about the smell of tear stew. Awakened a fair few culinary cravings, did. Black pudding, haggis and neeps. Oh!
Mother's berry bread.
What about you, brother? Any pre-Fimble winter foods you're aching for?
Olives.
The hell's an olive?
The hell's an olive? I love that movie. Hell's an olive. How do I get? Speaking of how the hell do I get up here? Now I could go through the water and back out, but
Brother, can we get back to what you were saying about the Oracle of your homeland? You mentioned trying to escape your bondage to Ares.
Yes, but we will speak of this later.
Lovely. Now you can open that gate without that ogre hurling detritus at us.
let's. There we go. She is stubborn. In the nicest way possible, she is. Okay, so does this take us then? Oh, this takes us back through the other side part of the desert. This is like, oh, I'm like, where's this door? How can I open this gate? And it's like, it's here. Here's how we open the gate. Because this takes us back to Crater. Yeah. So we've got a shortcut now. Oh, wait. No. Oh, this is somewhere completely different. Oh shit, the wishing well? What the? Oh look!
Time of rebirth.
Listen,
Oh, I've missed the
are they all? Are the stags all in one area?
Sorry,
then?
kid. Just come back already.
I wonder. I wonder if all the stags are in this bit of Vanaheim.
One stag left. Thanks for saving the realms and all that. I'd have gotten to it myself and with more style. But thanks.
You're welcome, he means to say. I'm surprised, brother. You'd think a stag would run in terror at the sight of you. Not exactly a calming presence, are you?
I am always calm.
Good one.
I am always calm. Lol. Sure you are, bud. Sure you are. Kratos is nothing but angry. Angry. That's how he works. That's how he operates. He's calm because he's not got the chance to punch your skull in yet.
Another one of Dvalin's diagrams.
You spoke of his conscience.
Aye. He saw that the
Oh, fuck,
Aesir
that's
would
bright.
likely use his powerful weapons to cut down his fellow dwarves. So he
this is
ripped
back
out
to
his
the
design
start.
pages and scattered them.
And what of him?
Well, the All-Father found out. He wasn't terribly pleased.
Shocker. To rune.
Look at that. See a dip, brother? Ah, another crystal. Best hold on to it until we can figure out what to do with it.
Probably like where you gotta take all these crystals to.
What was that? Did the lake just react to us destroying that crystal?
It would appear.
The lands of Vanaheim are certainly more alive than those in other realms. Perhaps it's glad you got rid of that crystal.
Huh. Seems like the pond still wants something. What if you threw a crystal in?
Oh, Placket of fallen stars.
Whoa, it worked.
Wow. Ho 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 ho! Wow. Holy shit. That's quite nice. Braces of fallen stars.
Look, it gave us a gift in return. Oh wow, that equipment will prove useful.
Oh, did I get a thing? Socket? Oh, Celestial Panacea? 25% resistance to all status effects. Oh, that's really nice. Yeah, I'll take that. Thanks.
And crystal shards. I bet we'll get a reward for any we return to the pond.
That's handy. Good thing we collected all those crystals in the
Oh,
first place, eh?
look how much! Holy fuck! 107,000. Oh, got an axe. Oh, runic hailstone knob. Ooh, runic and that looks quite nice actually. Dilapnia spear handle. Hind of volatile might. Old elemental siphon imbued spears do increase my damage, but the siphon element now fades after duration. Might see if I can. Okay, so that's what the crystals are for. So the more crystals we break, the more reward we get out of the wishing well. I mean, to be fair, I've been breaking every one I've seen, so I might have missed a few, but it's besides the point. Yeah, this is the way I came in, wasn't it? Let's go back this way. And yeah, I think we'll try and take out the dragon, and then we'll go back and do the Droga hole that's left in the plains now that we can get to it.
Why do you yawn?
Force of habit, I suppose, since I don't sleep anymore. Although, it's far more confounding that I'm the tired one. I've seen you stay awake for days at a time without so much as a drooping eyelid. Not even a nap.
Gods do not nap.
Oh, tell that to Thor.
Gods do not nap. Tell that to Thor, buddy. Oh, wait, do we have to go back there where the ogre was, maybe? Because now that we've got rid of the vines, maybe we can go there and...
Can we get back to what you were saying about the Oracle of your homeland? You mentioned trying to escape your bondage to Ares.
No bondage.
One priestess had visions that showed her Olympus would be brought to ruin by the god of war. Therefore she helped me, intending to undermine Ares and protect her realm. She did not foresee that I would kill him and take his office. In the end, I proved her vision of doom correct.
So the Oracle herself brought about the very future she hoped to avoid. I suppose we're in fine company at that.
We are indeed. Yeah, because this is where we fought the ogre. Maybe now, I say, now we've got rid of those vines on that ledge. Oh, we're on the wrong side. Shit. And that takes us back to that side, so I think we're missing... I think we've got to go further in. Whee.
Father, why do I look like you?
In what way?
In what
Like-
way?
Bigger. When do I get muscles like yours?
When you work for them.
But Baldur was really strong, and he didn't have any muscles.
My strength does not come from my body, but both are honed by discipline.
What's that mean?
Means you've got the strength of a god no matter what, lad. But if you want the physique of one, you'd better start picking heavy things up and putting them back down.
Anticipation's killing. I know, right? Oh, I've already got that one, haven't I? Yeah, I'm back here again. Fuck. I get up there then? How do I? Maybe there's something I missed up here. Oh wait, I didn't go this way.
If we keep going this way, I believe we'll reach that air dragon's lair.
Thank you, Mimir.
Just making sure you know where you're going.
Thank you. Oh, how am I gonna get out? Oh, yeah, I'm gonna have to go around, aren't I? Oh, there we go. Ooh. Weapon ability? Whisper of the World. Drag all enemies inward before heaving them far away in a specific direction. Ooh. Bad. Bad. Yeah, we'll take that. Oh, the... Oh, shit. Objects.
That's open. That dragon is shaking in its scaly boots, I suspect.
Once we approach the dragon, we will kill or be killed. Understood?
Yes, Father.
Alright, time to find a dragon. Slay the dragon. The Corpse Eater. Fuck, it's fast. Oh, nice. That's actually quite nice. Isn't it?
Right side. Nasty hit. You all right, brother?
You're frozen! You okay?
I mean, the fact that I got like 25% extra resistance now to those status effects is quite nice. Or like all of them.
Take cover!
Oh, Don Corny Hole. Don Corny Hole. Ah, little neon. I think he was playing Elder Scrolls Online. Sure, I think after playing some 14. Oh, well.
Bloody hell! Sit down, you grabby dopper!
Yeah, that hurt. I blocked that. I got a parry on him. Fuck out of here, dude. Oh, let's go. Let's go. Shut your trap. Oh. Sit down, motherfucker.
It is done.
I'll say. That ogre's not getting up anytime soon either.
I can hear the animals. They're relieved. Maybe they'll come out of hiding.
Ooh, Trail of the Dead. Complete. Oh, that's cheeky. Last one's there, of all places. Sigil of Doom. I think I did it. Yep. So let's head to the other crater now. We'll fast travel and then we'll go and see the dwarves. Brock. 3 out of 5 apples. Nice. Good stuff. I mean, if we get to 5, then that'd be amazing, but I don't expect us to. So and then, yeah, once we get this, we can get the last, well, we can get the level 6 upgrade for the Blades of Chaos, which will give us all skills. And we've unlocked all the skills then. Each weapon. Then we'll go and see Brock first, though. Because we got a lot of shit. And we did miss some stuff.
Hey, Slick Brain. Looks like you forgot something out in the field. Lucky for you, I found
Another
it
crystal for
tossed
the
it in
pond.
that chest.
Oh, fuck's sake, it was
You're
crystal.
welcome.
Damn it. Ooh, okay. I can upgrade the grips. Even the shield is upgradable. Ooh.
That'll mess some folks up. Something for the kid?
Hey, all 3 bows are...
Yeah, you can always whack 'em with it.
True. Oh, I can make the dragon scaled armor. And just pauldron. Oh, that's quite cool. Placard of Fallen Stars. Greatly reduces the damage taken when using a runic attack or relic. Ooh. Hold up. Hold up.
Damn, am I good
I did not mean to do that.
Very good.
Need smoldering embers. I don't have enough. Okay. I don't have enough ashes. Was it?
You won't get so much as a paper cut in that.
It fits.
It fits. Oh, I can upgrade this to max.
Damn! Am I good or what?
Okay, yeah, another amulet for the Yggdrasil. Is that another socket? Let's go.
You make up your mind.
Here of Hilt of Tirfing. Charge the sword to sacrifice health and deal damage based on the amount of health lost. It's a squirrel. Summons a spectral squirrel that scavenges a health stone.
Yeah, I'll take your crap.
Actually, you know what? We'll take. We're not gonna. I don't think we're gonna use these, to be honest.
Hand it over already.
Oh, let's go look at the shield.
About time I had something.
Bronze. Aggravation, which is what I'm using right now. Ronda Restoration.
Hope you're feeling violent. That'll put some hurt on them.
On taking damage, Kratos has a luck chance to gain defense for his next shield strike to hit to restore health. I lose. The main thing I lose is luck, but I gain an extra 12 vitality.
That'll mess some folks up.
Yeah, I think we'll use the Ronda Restoration.
Feeling violent. That'll put some hurt on them.
I can upgrade. Okay, so I can upgrade. I think I can upgrade pretty much. Level 8 for the Radiant Warden handles. Nice. God, my defense is shot up. Holy fuck. And then the Drapnir Spear. Orator. 7. Make it level 8. Let's go. I can max it out. Let's go. Oh, let's go. I am doing that.
Let's make something then.
Need tempered remnants. Okay.
Wait, feels like there was something else.
So if I go to Amulet. Now, what did I take that from? Ooh, I can put that in. So that gives me 75% resistance to blind and daze. That's quite nice, actually. Oh, ad's about to start in a couple of minutes. Okay. But yeah, I mean, I think we're good. I think we're good at this point. I don't want to use any skills just XP just yet because we're going to get the last upgrade for the
Another painful growth removed from these lands, eh?
From the Droger hole. Rock was taller, he'd definitely be amazing in MMA. Yeah, he would be, to be fair. You're not wrong there. You're not wrong. Oh, petrified bone. Nice. Oh, it's literally right there. Okay, so ads are starting in a minute. You know what? Let's see if we can do it.
There, that's got to be the last drop.
Oh, fuck off. Ah, okay, so my damage is actually based on how high my wrath is. How high my rage is. Sorry.
You're on fire! But you probably already know that.
Okay. Getting chopped up to fuck, aren't I?
It's that!
Yeah, I'm dead. I think we might have to take care of that that big elite enemy first, maybe. But if ads are gonna run, I'm gonna get up and stretch and whatnot, and I'll be right back. Give me a moment. That worked out. I have a problem with eating what's in front of me. That's why I lost my job as a gynecologist.
Unorthodox, but continue. Britain was to protect me according to the treaty my family signed. Instead, she took my land. And now I hear Britain intends to strengthen her ties to India. Perhaps it is time to return the Punjab to her people. The Queen has
Someone got sent fucking flying.
for God knows how long, and now you bite the hand that feeds you? It is not a matter of money. I cannot stand idle and watch.
I beg your pardon.
Oh my god, how am I meant to tell? I can't tell what I'm meant to do for that door. I feel like it's a door, but it's not.
Simon, my friend, what possessed you to do this thing? Has the party not taken care of you?
Governor of the Mill say any man what joins the union will be put out of work come sun up. How long will the party feed my family for?
If we do not stand together, we are lost. My heart is broken, Simon. Please go. I thank you, my friend. I hope you will continue to aid the struggle when the opportunity presents.
What the fuck was the point of that? I should be a voice actor of some sort. Oh, fuck. Nobody saw that, right? Nobody saw that.
How's this? Dispel! Our weapons are love!
Justice. Sexuality.
Would you stop?
That's fucking hilarious. Damn, well, the whole squad. You did. You did.
Message 11. You've still got the package over there in the store, right? Worst case, the deal's still on, even if you ain't open for business.
I'm gonna lie. So we'll just see how it goes, I guess. But yeah, I guess nothing. Oh, that's not birthday cake. Oh, fuck. And I never did. Which just kind of sums up most games that I just kind of picked up and didn't play again.
Over 90 hours long. The people that inhabit this salted dust ball are as ignorant as I've seen in this.
You know that Lilith and Tannis have the same exact voice actress.
Do they?
Yep.
Nice. I can kind of see the resemblance.
See it, hear it.
Hear it even, yeah. See it as well.
Yeah.
Boat to come back. Really? I'm not doing that. I'm not. No. No. Fuck this game. They just don't care. Oh, I was like, I'm not gonna make that jump. I was like, I'm not gonna make it. I'm sorry. What? I was just like, oh, yeah, I'm just gonna. Oh, I hate this one so much. Oh.
Lyra, you did it! I mean, I knew you could do it. Now, meet me at the pond for the next challenge.
You have no idea how long that normally takes me. Hello, I'm back. Okay, right, let's try this again, shall we? And try not to die. Thank you, Meister.
There, that's got to be the last drop of blood.
It's bad!
I wish, like, they were just leave me the fuck alone a little bit. can see it's fast. Stop running away!
What good's a shield if you're not going to use it?
It's bad!
Oh my god, what? 2 hits and I'm fucking dead. Jesus. Come on, man.
There, that's got to be the last drop of
I mean, Mimir's right. If I'm not going to use a shield, like, what is literally the point? Oh my god, fuck off! Because I'm shit at this game, Atreus. Please.
You're on fire, Kratos. It will fire.
I'm shit at this game. I don't know what blocking is. I don't care. I want to try again. Fucking no shit. Definitely kicks up a notch once you've gotten like past half health. You fuck. I could just buy a resurrection stone. I could do that actually. I might just do that. I might just buy a resurrection. I'll try a couple more times, but if not, I'll just buy a resurrection stone. I don't have one.
There, that's got to be the last drop of
It's bad!
You're on fire, Kratos.
Come on.
It will pass.
Bro! Fucking calm down. Oh my god. Why do I suck at this game so much? Fucking there we go. Jesus.
You worry?
It's Atreus.
Never while you're around, oh warrior of rippling muscle.
Thank you, Atreus, just for killing her at the end. Okay, so that should be another Chaos Flame. Let's go.
Did I ever tell the two of you how I made a small fortune in Asgard? Once, Balder arranged for every archer in the city to open fire on him. We took bets on how many arrows could be lodged in his body until the sheer weight of them made him fall down. Ha!
That's awful.
Oh, no. He was laughing the whole time. And mine was the closest guess. 446 arrows exactly.
It's horrible. You better not tell that story in front of Freya.
Yes, lad, because I've suddenly taken leave of my senses.
Just saying.
Yeah, I'm sure he's going to go around and tell Freya that. I'm sure that's a great idea. No? Alright, let's upgrade this Chaos Blade. Or Blades of Chaos.
Your fire blades are looking a little cool. Hand them over.
85 damage now.
Would these make for a painful way to go?
I think this was it. That's 100, and then the dropping is at 30.
Hitting the road or chewing the fat?
Okay, so that's that done. I mean, I think we're good now, aren't we? I think I'm fairly happy. I'm fairly happy with what we've got. That is all skills unlocked. Yeah. We've unlocked every single technique, skill and technique. Let's go. I can have Tame the Beast maxed out. Rest of 1,000 soldiers. Honor the Fallen. I mean, the Laser Chaos looks sick. The Leviathan axe looks sick. Like the detailing on it. That looks pretty cool. Shield looks pretty cool. Look at that emblem on that rond on the front of it. Lovely stuff. God, look at that. Defense has gone up 347. Shotter. Grants a burst of rage and applies stun to nearby enemies. Oh, I could have that. I could have the Hilt of Gram actually. That might be actually quite nice. But then that's like maxed out, so. Here's the amount of rage gained. Ooh. Yeah, I think we'll upgrade the Hilt of Gram next. So that's that done. Right, I guess let's do some story. Don't think there's anything else really for us to do at this point. Unless I could, I mean, there's one stag I got left to find. Which is probably in Vanaheim somewhere. Principal challenges: Fit for a King, Odin's Ravens. Yeah. Obviously, find the half of Mead sign. Lure the Drake. That's fine. We'll leave it for now. Let's head back to Sindri's and show everybody the mask that we got. Could look to Ratatoskr actually. Yeah, the stags.
Stags of the season, remember? It's
I know.
All that said, seems we met another of your detachable emotional apparitions. Bit too twitchy to tell us his name, though.
Ah, you must mean anxiety. Oh no. Why are you talking about me? What did I do? Oh, you should have heard the shit they were talking. Savage. What? Oh dear, oh dear. There was no such talk. Shame on you, Bitter. Are you sure? Yes, Anxious. No opprobrium to be found in this discourse. I was merely making your acquaintance with our adventuring friends here. Ah, people! Well, there it is.
People! That's... Yeah,
that's the long and short of it. Safe travels.
That hit home.
Back, everybody!
Hey, you made it.
I'll get here. Join us at the table if you're ready to stay.
See? I told you the key would get him home.
Because you tapped it with a hammer. Dwarven magic makes no sense.
Right? Luna one time made me a breastplate out of dog barks.
You're back.
I still can't figure that
Are you
one out.
okay?
I'm fine. I just hope unlocking this thing was worth the cost.
You have it. What did it show you?
I didn't get to use it. They found out about Heimdall. I had to run. But at least Odin can't use it either.
But if you didn't get any answers from the mask, all you've done is steal Odin's greatest treasure. Just after your father's killed his most loyal ally. None of us are safe, even here.
So we have no choice. We find Surtur, sound Gjallarhorn, and bring Odin to justice. Now.
You'd incinerate every soul in Asgard and call it self-defense?
Does he ever suggest plans or just crap on everyone else's?
The obvious plan is staring you in the face. We don't need Odin to use this. We can slip into Asgard and do it ourselves, right under his nose. We gain the knowledge we need to shatter this prophecy of war once and for all.
Except begging your pardon, you don't have a way into Asgard.
They got the big horn, don't they?
Oh, so you expect them to sneak into Asgard blowing a horn that sounds across all the realms?
I expect you to bite my blue butt cheek.
Please, just think about it.
This mask. the easy answers that it promises. I know this. Shortcuts always have a price. Atreus, you have carried it. What do you think?
I think it's a chance. At worst, we'll have something Odin wants as leverage. At best, if it really gives us all the answers, then we can make our own path. Nobody has to die.
Grand. Now all we need's a way to Asgard.
I know I've been a burden to you all. I know you've questioned why you even pulled me out of that hole. I have too. But it's clear now. This is what I'm needed for. This is my purpose. One last time, I will pick up my spear and I will lead us to Asgard.
Oh shit.
Excuse me, but if you got
Tyr's gonna be the god of war.
where's that idea been this whole fucking while?
That's rather a fair question, brother.
You withheld Asgard.
You would have gotten us all killed. And we needed to give Loki time to find his destiny. Here it is. It's all led to this.
If we can get inside, I'm going after Odin.
I will not stop you. We can do both.
Spot on, brother. If the mask doesn't give us an out, we'll still have the drop on him. Works for me.
Let's do it then. And quickly, before he sees us coming.
He does hate surprises.
Slow down, you damn spruce. I still want to hear the details on this, new way to Asgard you got. Spill it!
It's an ancient path. We can't reach it from here.
Where then?
Let me collect my things and I'll show you.
You ain't got no things. And where you going with that mask, Brock? That belongs to the kid. He earned it. All you done was make passable dirt soup.
Brock, it's okay.
No, it ain't. This ain't right. All the pieces ain't welding together true. Like, what's with him calling you Loki anyway? You know that ain't his name. Hey! I'm talking to you! You never shut up!
Oh shit, he just fucking stabbed him.
All the things,
Odin.
Let go of the boy and face me.
Ah, he was Tyr the whole time.
Freya, if he dies.
Now.
Oh shit.
But if he dies, we are square for Heimdall. And honestly, you got a bargain.
I will kill you. Plan on that.
So nice spending time with you again.
Freya, please.
Can't be in two places at once, Frigg. Hey! I don't move, you don't move. Don't do anything you'll regret.
I regret many things. Killing you will not be one of them. Where's my son?
I'm in control! Here! Throw me the mask! Now!
Is he gonna do it?
Too bad, son. Looks like war after all.
Oh, nice one, Kratos. Took the mask off him. Oh shit.
Please, you have to save him. You have to. He can't. You can't. Maybe if I go back to the lake.
Stop it. I know what you've done. And I forgive you. But you gotta stop. You gotta let go.
Bro.
Where was Tyr this whole time?
this whole time?
So,
He was. There was never any Tyr. It was always Odin.
Now we kill Odin. And anyone who gets in our way.
Atreus. Come.
What? Where?
It does not matter.
Where are you going?
We are done.
Oh, Kratos is like, nah, I don't want any more of this.
You can't run away from this, Kratos. Odin won't stop until we stop him. We need you here.
Leave. We're not going to leave, though, are we? Not going
Father?
to leave.
Where are we going?
Home.
Bum, bum. I'll share a fun fact after you beat the game. No worries. Like, Midgard.
Father,
But then-
can we? I want to go hunting.
I will follow.
We are with you, Atreus.
What do we hunt?
Deer.
Which way we headed, lad?
In the direction of deer.
The direction of deer. Hunting for solace. Oh, your puppies. Ow. Oh. That's just annoying without fire magic. Yeah, he's a bit of a bitch without using magic. Or actually, what do you know about the DLC? So the DLC, I know that it's only Kratos. You only play as Kratos and Mimir.
Do you wish to speak of what happened?
I think I heard something. This way.
And I know,
Space.
Here.
I know Atreus is like long. He's like gone and done his own adventures. I think by that point. That's all I know. I know it's like a Hades style game. And whatnot.
Atreus, violence changes us. You are not weak to feel its effects.
We're all feeling its effects.
We're heading the right way. There's broken branches over there. Come on.
The tear was never a thing.
I keep seeing it. The knife, Brock, Sindri's face.
Son.
There it is.
Is that the same deer that you tried to hunt in the first game?
Elbow up. Accuracy over speed. Why? That was running.
And so are we.
don't understand.
I think of the book.
Is wounded. It must stop the bleeding, or it will die. We have been wounded, and this is a distraction.
It's my fault.
No.
I think of the bow, no worries.
You should find Sindri. I have a pretty good idea where he might be.
Lead.
That's mental, though. That Tyr the whole time was Odin.
Is it okay if we take the sleds? I need to think about what I'm gonna say to him.
Of course.
All that time it was Tyr.
Everywhere I look, I'm
Look
reminded
there.
of my mistakes.
Yeah.
Our actions have consequences. To be reminded of them is not punishment.
Feels like it.
It's really hard to talk, to narrate it, because there's a lot going on.
If I had just...
Seen through a deception that fooled us all. Stopped an attack you could not predict. There is no if, Atreus.
Your father's right. There are things even gods cannot control.
Just, you can feel the tension and like sadness in the air. The air is so still. There's no music. There's no ambience. Nothing. It's so calm and just dead. It is. It is.
We can take the sled when you're ready. Here's Temple. That's where we're headed.
And your star shower? Nice. GG's. That from fighting Abzu.
Mimir, is there a chance that we could bring Brock back? Sindri did it once. Maybe we could figure out a way to do it again.
I'm afraid not, little brother. When a soul missing its full gear, its direction, drops, leaves its corporeal form, well, it can't reach the Lake of Souls. He's not only dead, he's been denied an afterlife. There's nothing to bring back.
It's really gone.
Atreus, if there was anything we could do, I promise you, we'd be doing it.
I know. It was stupid of me to help in the first place.
It's the hope that kills you, as they say. We're going all the way over here.
I miss when the lake
Yeah,
was
that's
so
it. Yeah,
long.
the best maybe.
I feel like I want to get on a boat and just sail away from here.
I can't get off.
You cannot sail away from your mistakes. It is impossible to forget them. I have tried.
Aye. They'll follow you no matter where you go, little brother.
If you are to sail, do it toward somewhere.
Yeah, Star Shower is probably the best ability that Tifa has.
The lift at the end of the bridge should still work. We can get up to the temple that way.
And up we go. This is where we realm traveled in the first game.
Atreus, what makes you so sure Sindri will be here?
It's where he and Brock reunited. Reforging something that broke. He'll be here.
There he is.
Sindri? Sindri, I'm so sorry.
No. No, I don't want to hear it. You don't know what sorry means.
I mean, he's kind of right, because he says sorry like 50
We're
times.
not letting Odin get away with this.
Would that be the Odin you invited into my home?
We were all fooled.
But some of us were bigger fools than others. Aren't we? I gave you everything. My skills. My friendship. My home. My secrets. My treasures. And you just kept taking. And now what have I got? Not even my family.
Ken, he's kind of correct.
This is what sorry looks like.
What can we do?
Nothing.
There is no we. There's
Not
only
anymore.
you. No matter what the cost. So what you can do is get the fuck out of my sight.
Come, Atreus. Leave it be.
But there is...
More on how you wish.
It's sad, because I feel like with Atreus, because I've watched a bit of the old God of Wars, and it's kind of a little, it's a little bit similar. I'll say I've only watched bits and pieces.
I thought we were his
But-
family too.
We were.
It kind of feels similar, like what Atreus is trying to do. You know, he's trying to say like, "Oh, I'll keep doing it. I'll make it up to you. I'll make it up to you. I'll make it up to you. And I'll go to the ends of the earth and do all this and that to try and, you know, make it better." And he ends up making it worse.
There's no making this right. Is there?
No. But I know I'll feel better when we brought Odin to justice.
Justice. Justice is not what we seek. It is vengeance. Every path I walk leads back to vengeance.
Maybe that's all we have left.
We must return to Freya.
You know, because I know with Kratos slaying all the gods, he was trying to like break free
When we
of
get back,
being.
we really are going to war.
It has come to that. Yes.
when we were back in Svartalfheim, looking for Tyr. This isn't what I wanted. This wasn't what I meant. Not if it meant losing Brock.
We know, Atreus. We know.
You know, I say I haven't played the original game, so I can't really say that probably.
We really took everything from Sindri.
Don't take to heart words said in grief, Atreus. No matter how spot on they feel.
I know we should go see Freya, but I wouldn't mind staying here in Midgard for a little while.
Aye. A few last adventures to take our minds off the state of, well, everything.
Oh, so we can actually do stuff now? We could try this Berserker. What? No. Take our mind off things.
Frankie's a zealot.
For King
I felt that one,
Whoa. Oh. I think, if I'm not mistaken, if the bar is green, like if the health bar is green, then it probably means that like you should kill this fairly easily, because you're probably like we're probably over leveled for this a little bit. But I'm making a struggle out of it, of course, because why wouldn't I? Oh. Well. Fuck it, it goes fast. Nice.
Tell me more of this king.
He's not worth wasting my breath over. His berserker champions even less so. Trash. A lot of them.
Why wait until now to speak of them?
Before, there was nothing to be done. Finding that help changed things.
Ooh, Berserker Waistguard. Ooh, wow. Taking damage, blocking, and parrying all have a moderate luck chance to cause a soul explosion, dealing damage and restoring some cooldown of the relic. Wow, that's actually, you get a lot of that. Holy shit, that's a lot. Oh, can we even, like, go to the shop now? That's a problem, isn't it? Hmm. So we've done 2 out of... There's a Berserker Stone in Niflheim. We can't go there, the Mistfields, because that's... Yeah, anyway. Well, there's one in Alfheim. Is there one in Alfheim? Two. One. Vanaheim. I think there's one in Vanaheim. Over here. Asgard. There's at least one in Svartalfheim. Two. There's two, actually. Well, there's one legendary chest that we can go to. There's a Idrisil Rift. I mean, we can try the Yggdrasil Rift. And it's probably going to be a fight of some sorts, but...
Looks to be a sculptor from the southern lands.
On treasure found. Oh, that's where we fought Thor. Okay, nice. You can go in there? No.
I think I see something.
One minute. Let's head back. Hunting for souls.
Freya will still be at the house.
Don't see why not. Odin's back door in was also his way out. Without the blasted raven apparently hiding in the broom closet, the house should be secure.
And she will not turn away allies in her vengeance.
Aye, it's all our vengeance now. And no more fake Tyr to twist our minds around. Oh, what a mockery he made of Tyr's desire for peace. And mine.
He sure did. He sure did. Probably do this little cutscene or whatever, and then...
You're back. Are you with us? Good. It's time.
Time for what, dare I ask?
Time to unite the realms against Odin once and for all.
Tyr tried to unite the realms. The real Tyr. Everyone loved him. And even he failed.
Then we better not fail, or there will be no one left to try. This is Ragnarok.
And Odin's already heard every blasted plan we have.
Yes, we've lost the element of surprise. More than that, we have only one way to Asgard, and it's not subtle.
Yellow.
It means we enter from Tyr's temple, here. Asgard's wall is here. Odin's host of Einherjar will hold the space in between.
Which means we need armies of our own.
As many as will answer the call. Numbers Odin won't see coming.
And that's just to reach the wall. To breach the wall, we'll need to find Surtar.
Ratatoskr was able to procure this.
Three of us will go.
I know just where to look.
Splendid. Allies, then. Who do we think we can get?
I'll venture to Helheim. Try to recruit the army of the dead.
And I'll return to Alfheim to unite the elves.
Just like that. Unite the elves after centuries of war.
Well, they really like me in Alfheim.
To that I...
Yes. To find Sigrun and muster the free Valkyries.
Midgard has no army.
No Niflheim, no Jotunheim.
That leaves only Svartalfheim.
I'll go to Svartalfheim.
Sindri? Are you sure?
I said I'll go.
Ooh.
So be it. Good luck to us all.
This is it then. Go to Muspelheim.
Niflheim to find the last fire giant. I almost envy everyone else's impossible mission.
Wait, Muspelheim is... Oh, yeah, that's the molten area. Yeah, nice. Okay, well, we're going to call it here, because it's nearly 10:30 in the evening, so... I feel like this is going to be like the last bit now. We're preparing, and now we prepare for war. Yeah, this feels like now that we're in the end game. For sure. So. Yeah, that's going to be it for tonight. Oh, again, apologies for the, Oh, wow. That's my face. That is my face. But it's very, very big. Hold on. Ooh, but yeah. First stream done with the new camera webcam. Nice. And I feel like it's an improvement already. It's just the sheer smoothness of it. Everything's really smooth compared to the old the Razor. So well worth the purchase for sure. But yeah, we're gonna let me see who's on. Actually, try and see if I can find out who's online. If I can. With me a second. Okay. Ooh, okay. Kira's playing Witcher 3. Nice. We've got Ari's doing 6. James is doing some 14. Gets playing this game. Yeah, let's rate someone new. Okay. I'm gonna rate Guafa. He was a pretty cool dude. Met him recently. think I'm in one or two of his stream teams. I can't remember exactly, but he's a pretty cool dude. So we're gonna send the love over to him. Oh, and ads are about to start, so that's good timing. But yeah, I will raid out to Guafa. Check him out. He's playing some Monster Hunter World at the moment. I think he's doing like an online lobby, so if anyone wants to join in and has Monster Hunter World, then I'm sure you can. So, yeah, and he's just started too, so hopefully, say I'll send you over there and we'll check him out and see some new friends maybe, hopefully. And I will see you all hopefully next time for more... Oh, yeah, that really shits it, didn't it? For more God of War Ragnarok and potential endgame soon. Fingers crossed. Until then, take care of yourselves and good night. I'll raid out before the ad starts, so don't worry.